You wake up to a strange smell in the air, something between sweat, filth, and a faint touch of sewage. Oh, yes, you're in glorious ancient Rome, the city of statues, invincible legions, and absolutely questionable hygiene. Here's the problem: you're not a wealthy patrician enjoying the wonders of the empire. Oh, no. You're just an average citizen, or worse, a newly arrived slave, which means your life expectancy is flirting dangerously with insignificance. Now, if you think surviving in ancient Rome was easy, I hate to break it to you, but you're about to find out that this city is basically one giant theme park of horrible ways to die. But don't worry, you'll have plenty of options. Maybe you'll be eaten by a lion in the Colosseum. Perhaps you'll die from lead poisoning in the water. Or who knows, you might get stabbed in a tavern brawl just for looking at someone the wrong way. Rome is incredibly generous when it comes to personal tragedies. So hold your breath. Seriously, hold it, because the smell here is no joke. And let's take a look at what your life or death would be like in ancient Rome. You walk through the streets of Rome trying to blend in with the locals. After all, the last thing you want is to look like a lost outsider. Romans don't have much patience for people like that. And then you feel a shove. Someone bumps into you, and before you can react, your coin pouch is gone. That's right, you just got mugged in ancient Rome. You scan the crowd, trying to spot the thief, but he's already vanished into the sea of people. The problem? You're broke, and a Roman citizen without money is a Roman citizen in trouble. You quickly realize you might need to find a way to make a living here, or at least survive without a single coin. But your moment of reflection is cut short. Your stomach growls. You need food. The good news? There are plenty of food stalls all around the city. The bad news? Prices are absurd. Rome is going through an inflation crisis. The price of wheat has skyrocketed, and even ordinary citizens are struggling to afford a meal. You consider begging for food, but then you remember this is a society where generosity isn't exactly a core value. So you make a bold decision, steal a loaf of bread. Terrible choice. Within seconds, the stall owner is shouting. A group of Roman soldiers grabs you before you can run. You try to explain yourself, but no one has time for excuses. To them, you're just a miserable bread thief. The punishment? Well, there are a few possibilities. You could be publicly whipped until you pass out. You could be thrown in prison, where your chances of survival are pretty slim. You could be forced to pay a fine, but, oh, right, you have no money. Option 1 seems the quickest. You're dragged to a public square and given 50 lashes across your back. If that sounds bad, trust me, it's worse. The whip has small pieces of bone and metal at the tip. By the time it's over, your body is a bloody map of deep cuts. And then you die. Congratulations. That was your first death in ancient Rome. Want to try again? Of course you do. Let's pretend this never happened. All right, you got whipped to death. Not the greatest start, but let's pretend you made a smarter decision this time and didn't try to steal bread. Instead, you decide to look for a job. After all, without money, you won't last long here. The good news? Rome is always in need of workers. The bad news? The available jobs aren't exactly dream positions. Career options: work in construction. Low pay, high risk, strong chance of falling off scaffolding and, well, dying. Become a gladiator. If you survive long enough, you might even get famous. If not, well, we all know how that ends. Join the Roman army. Regular salary, opportunity to plunder enemy lands, but also an absurdly high risk of being stabbed in some bloody battle. Become a slave. Not really a choice, but depending on your luck, it might happen anyway. You go for the least insane option and take a job in construction. After all, building walls doesn't sound that dangerous, right? Wrong. The problem is that ancient Rome's safety standards are non-existent. No helmets, no harnesses, no stable scaffolding. What is present, however, is a foreman yelling in your face to work faster. You spend hours hauling heavy stones, every muscle in your body screaming for rest. The sun is blazing and nobody gives you water. Hydration? Who needs that? And then it happens. One of your exhausted and distracted coworkers drops a massive wooden beam right in your direction. You try to dodge, but your body doesn't react in time. Crack. Silence. Congratulations, you just died in a workplace accident. Second death recorded. Want to try again? Great, because ancient Rome still has plenty of ways to kill you. After being crushed in construction, you decide that maybe hauling stones isn't your calling. So let's reset this attempt and choose another path. This time, you want something more exciting, something that will make your name remembered for centuries. The answer is obvious. Become a gladiator. You picture crowds cheering your name, artists sculpting your statue, coins raining at your feet. The reality? Well, first, you don't really get to choose this path. Being a gladiator isn't like enrolling in a trade school. You get captured and sold to a gladiator training school. So, congratulations, you are now the property of a lanista, the school owner, and your new name is something fancy like Filthy Feet or Broken Nose. You wake up in a cramped, stinking cell. Your cellmate, a massive guy covered in scars, gives you a look that says, "If you breathe too loudly, I will kill you." What a great day to be alive. Your training starts at dawn, and guess what? You suck at it. You hold the sword wrong. Your shield weighs more than your dignity, and your instructor has less patience than a constipated centurion. Keep this up, and you'll die in your first fight, he growls. But you don't give up. You train, sweat, bleed, and eventually learn to hold the sword the right way. Then the big day arrives. You are taken to the Colosseum, or something similar since we're still in the Roman Republic. The roar of the crowd makes your knees shake. Your opponent, a veteran, a guy who has survived multiple fights and whose stare tells you everything you need to know about your life expectancy. The fight begins, you try to attack, but your blade cuts nothing but air. The veteran smiles. 1 second you're standing, the next you feel a blade slicing through your gut. Silence. You drop to your knees, clutching the deep wound. The pain is unbearable. You look up at the emperor or some random magistrate, since the Colosseum, as we know it, doesn't exist yet, and beg with your eyes. The crowd is divided. Some want you to live, others want blood. The magistrate makes a gesture, thumbs down. The veteran doesn't hesitate. The blade comes down. You die in the arena in a very unglorious way. Third death recorded. Okay, getting crushed by stones was awful. Getting stabbed in the arena, also not fun. Maybe you needed an option with more structure, more discipline, and most importantly, a steady paycheck. Welcome to the Roman army. You enlist thinking you'll become a war hero, conquer lands, win gold, have your name sung in taverns. The reality? You spend the first 3 months marching. That's right, marching. Up hills, down valleys, wearing a boiling hot metal armor and carrying a backpack full of gear. If anyone dares to say, "Can we take a break?" The centurion materializes out of nowhere to scream, "Are you in Rome or a spay?" But that's fine, because once the battle begins, you'll prove your worth. The battle begins. You stand in tight formation, shield to shield with your brothers in arms. The order comes, advance. You rush forward, heart pounding. The enemy is closing in. You raise your spear to strike, and then something heavy slams into your head. You hit the ground, you try to get up, but you realize your helmet is now crushed inside your skull. Vision fading, pain unbearable. Last thought. So, this is how it ends? Yes. This is how it ends. Fourth death recorded. All right, physical battles are clearly not your strong suit. But what about verbal battles? Intrigue, manipulation? Yes, you decide to enter Roman politics. What could go wrong? Senators just spend their days debating, wearing elegant togas, and drinking wine. Right? You start small, trying to impress citizens with speeches about how Rome needs honest leaders. This earns a few laughs, but surprisingly, you gain some supporters. Over time, you climb the ranks. You learn how to speak well, how to make promises you'll never keep, and how to manipulate allies to gain power. Congratulations, you are now officially a politician. But Rome loves politicians. especially when it can kill them. If you stand out too much, someone powerful will see you as a threat. And when that happens, you win a special prize called a conspiracy. One fine morning, you receive an invitation to a banquet hosted by a senator friend, free wine, plenty of food, sounds great. You eat, drink, and chat. Everything is perfect until your vision starts to blur. Your body feels heavy. Your muscles stop responding. You try to speak, but your mouth won't move. You realize you've been poisoned. Your host smiles at you. Nothing personal, just business. You collapse to the floor. Your lungs refuse to work. The last thing you see is a slave dragging your body out of the house like a sack of grain. Fifth death recorded. Well, so far you've died 5 times, and let's be honest, none of them were peaceful. But what if you just tried to be an ordinary citizen? No gladiator fights, no centurion duties, no political schemes, no business ventures. Just a regular Roman living a quiet life and staying out of trouble. For a while it works. You wake up early, buy bread at the market, avoid suspicious glances, and even start to think, maybe I've beaten Rome. Maybe I won't die this time. And then, one day, as you're walking casually through the forum, you trip. Yes, just a simple trip, and unfortunately you trip right in front of a high-speed chariot. The horses don't stop. The driver yells something that sounds like, "Get out of the way, idiot!" But it's already too late. You feel the impact of a horse's hoof crushing your ribs. Your body flips through the air before landing with a heavy thud. But you're not dead yet. Oh, if only, because the chariot wheels roll right over you. You feel everything. Your bones snap like dry twigs. The world turns red, then black, and just like that, you die a 6th and final time. Moral of the story? Rome was not made for you. If you were transported to ancient Rome, no matter what you did, you'd die screaming, whether in the arena, on the battlefield, in the Senate halls, or simply on the chaotic streets of the city. Rome was glorious, but it was also brutal. So if a wizard, a mysterious portal, or a time travel experiment ever offers you the chance to live in ancient Rome, do yourself a favor and say, no, thanks.